Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 296, ID Part 2. Edward POV. Paparazzi swarmed the port area, snapping pictures of the yacht as people boarded, capturing every moment of our departure. A few relentless photographers attempted to follow us in a rented boat, but my security team, along with the vigilant FBI agents watching over me, swiftly handled the situation. For the partygoers, this was a rare escape. A time when they could let loose without the scrutiny that usually accompanied their lives in the limelight. The yacht itself was a marvel of luxury, comfortably fitting into the super yacht category. Inside, the lounge featured long couches that could accommodate 15 people, perfectly positioned to face the kitchen and bar. As guests moved to the deck, they were greeted by a couple of lounge chairs and an infinity pool shimmering at the center, with stairs on either side connecting the upper and lower decks. Below deck, 5 rooms provided plush accommodations, 1 master cabin, 3 ordinary cabins, and a specially renovated cabin for my dad. To decide who would claim the master cabin, we played a round of rock paper scissors, and luck was on my side. I won. I had taken the time to upgrade my dad's simple cabin, ensuring it wouldn't feel too shabby compared to mine. It now featured its own bathroom and a cozy lounge area. My cabin was spacious enough to house a pool table if I chose to put one in, but I hadn't yet. The yacht was a source of envy for many, with an estimated market value of a staggering $80 million. Little did they know I had acquired it for less than $8 million and poured an additional $3 million into refurbishing and modifying it. It was still a hefty sum, but as someone with the second best-selling albums of all time and the master of new era technology, I could afford to indulge in a little luxury once in a while. Oh my god, this shrimp is so big! Brenda exclaimed, her mouth full as she savored the seafood. She had changed into a blue-black polka dot bikini and topped her look with a large sun hat that bounced lightly with her animated gestures. I, on the other hand, kept it simple in a white shirt and jean shorts, complemented by a pair of classic sunglasses to shield my eyes from the sun. The atmosphere was lively, filled with laughter and the sound of waves lapping against the yacht. The staff had stocked the yacht with some food for my trip, so seeing her dig into the provisions didn't bother me. I had my pizzas waiting. The staff had prepared an impressive spread. Meat, fresh lobster, shrimp, my beloved ramen, chicken, vegetables, ice cream, and lasagna. They even got me some rice. Before we set sail, I had enlisted 2 more helpers from my dad's tourism business, a chef and a bartender, who willingly volunteered for the occasion. I paid them generously, of course. The chefs continued cooking and served the hungry guests some food. The shrimp platter was one of them. Brenda jogged towards me and stuffed the prawn into my mouth. It's great, isn't it? Free food is always great. I mumbled as I chewed on it. For the freeloaders at least. Brenda giggled, not bothered by the hidden sarcasm, and said. As Brenda shared her shrimp bounty with the others, I sipped a non-alcoholic cocktail, keeping my beer stash hidden away in the master bedroom. Glancing around, I spotted some familiar faces among the crowd. Emily Ratajkowski lounged near the hot tub on the upper deck, while Danielle Panabaker chatted with Brenda, both of them enjoying the shrimp. Justin Bieber stood alone by the rails, engrossed in his phone. Ashley Benson caught my eye, her excitement evident every time I looked her way as she conversed with another actress whose name eluded me, though her face felt oddly familiar. Vanessa approached me, clad in a thin, one-piece purple swimsuit, a fruity drink in hand. Are you searching for your targets? She teased, noticing my scanning gaze. I shook my head. Just looking for people I know. Not much to see. She shrugged apologetically. Most of them are Brenda's friends. I have no idea how Bieber ended up here. I'm going to apologize for her. I chuckled, turning my attention back to her. My eyes instinctively roamed her figure, and she arched her back, leaning closer to me. Confused at first, I soon understood her intent as she whispered in my ear, "Taylor's here." "What?" I widened my eyes and scanned the ship, finally spotting him, Taylor Lautner, shirtless and chatting with a group of European models on the deck. "Are you kidding me right now?" I exclaimed, turning to Vanessa, who burst into laughter and darted away. My heart almost jumped out of my chest from the shock. In her haste, she almost slipped, and I instinctively wrapped my arm around her waist to steady her. My center of gravity and hers rubbed against each other accidentally. "You all right there?" I asked, amusement lacing my voice. Vanessa felt the heat of embarrassment creeping up her neck. I'm fine," she stammered, quickly retreating to join Brenda, who was giggling at the entire scene with her friend. I walked to the deck, greeting a few partygoers along the way, but before I could reach my intended target, a tall blonde girl grabbed my arm from behind. She stood at 177 centimeters with frilly hair, freckles dancing across her nose, and piercing blue eyes that seemed a little dull and lifeless. A pearl necklace adorned her neck, and her polka-dot bikini held up her D-cup bosom, epitomizing the stereotypical beach babe. "Hi. I'm Luna," she said, extending her hand and speaking with a vocal fry that was jarring. "Hello, Luna." "I'm Edward," I replied casually, shaking her hand. "So, when's the party going to start?" she asked with a slight alarm in her tone, her smile wide. "It's already starting now," I replied, slightly confused. Luna suddenly guffawed, her laughter erupting in a way that caught me off guard. She laughed so hard that tears formed in her eyes, slapping my bicep as if it were the punchline of a great joke. I stared at her, my brows furrowed in bewilderment. Once she calmed down, she leaned in and whispered conspiratorially, "Not that. The true party. Is it an anal party?" "What?" I widened my eyes in shock. She continued blithely, "Then, pee party, I need to know the vices first before I can decide to participate or not. I may be open-minded about new things, but I draw the line at shitting in the mouth." "What in the world are you talking about?" I interjected, desperate to redirect the conversation before it veered any further. "This is a normal party," I stressed out. "Or anything to do with shit." Luna didn't seem fazed. She winked at me, using air quotes as she said, "Yeah. I get it. Normal party." Her expression was playful, but I could sense she was serious about her inquiries. "Slime party? Masked orgy? Furry? Baby oil? What is it? You're taking us to an unknown location and start hunting us one by one? Just don't kill me, okay?" I sighed, feeling helpless from her lack of trust. "Go ask Brenda. It's her party. I don't have the heart to deal with this." "Wait. Is it really a normal party?" she asked, her voice turned into a normal voice as she was surprised. "What else?" I asked with frustration. "I'm not a degenerate." "Really?" She looked at me with suspicion. "But you know Diddy?" she added. I was flabbergasted when I heard that. I don't know him. When did I ever know him? I left after grimacing at the girl. As she watched me walk away, she mumbled to herself, "It's not? Seriously?" Then, she walked toward some other girls and told them. They even shouted together in celebration after that. I fished out my anti-anxiety pills and popped 2 more into my mouth. With my Steve Rogers level metabolism, I knew the effects would be dulled when taken orally, but I needed a little something to take the edge off. With that, I made my way over to Justin Bieber. "Sup," I greeted him with a slight nod. JB smiled wryly. "Hi. Let me guess, you thought this was a Diddy party too," I said, teasingly raising an eyebrow. He chuckled. "No, I wanted to escape from those, didn't know this was your party though. Don't worry about it. Even I don't know how this is going to turn into a party. By the way, this is Brenda Son's party, not mine," I said casually, then added, "You know this is an overnight trip, right?" JB's eyes widened in alarm. "For real?" I have a concert tomorrow morning. I can't stay." Um. Don't worry about it. I can have a speedboat come by to pick you up tonight, I said, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. So just try to enjoy the trip. You have other boats? He asked, disbelief etched across his face. I shot him a quizzical look. Not mine. Just the business. Wanna go grab a bite? He was all alone over there, and I felt a bit bad for him. I introduced him to Brenda and a few other girls nearby before I drifted off to mingle elsewhere. Little did I know that this simple meeting would redefine JB's experience that night. He would soon find himself engrossed in a conversation with Brenda, who would relay to him the details I had shared about the so-called Diddy party. We anchored near an unknown tourist spot, a hidden gem where the partygoers could swim alongside the vibrant fish in the clear blue ocean. However, only Vanessa and Danielle Panabaker displayed the courage to dive in. I leaned against the ladder, waiting for Vanessa to return from her swim. As she climbed up, I chuckled and teased, "You don't even know how to swim, but you're confident enough to swim in the open water?" She pinched her nose and blew, trying to clear the water from her ears. Frustrated, she replied, "I can swim. I just can't do it in pools." "Ah, you're allergic to chlorine," I recalled. Vanessa looked at me, puzzled. "How did you know that?" "I've never told you." I waved her off, continuing, "No wonder in the High School Musical pool scene, the stunt double who jumped in was so blatantly obvious." "Wait, you did drown there, right?" "Almost," she corrected me, indignantly. "Almost drowned. I handled it professionally." As she spoke, I wrapped a towel around her shoulders. She paused, looking up at me with affectionate eyes. "Such a gentleman," she teased. "Go get changed." "You won't want to miss the sunset," I said casually, then did the same for Danielle when she emerged from the water. But when Vanessa saw me being friendly with Danielle, irritation flickered across her face, and she stomped off to her room. "I'm using the shower in your room," she called back demandingly. "My room is locked, though," I shouted after her, but she was already gone, sticking a finger in her ear to clear out the water and likely not hearing me. I turned to Danielle Panabaker, feeling a bit awkward. "I really liked you in the flash." "Thanks," she replied, confusion etched on her face. I shrugged it off and walked away, leaving her dumbfounded. "What just happened?" "I didn't work in The Flash. Is there a story called The Flash?" she mumbled to herself, bewildered. When I reached my cabin, I glanced at the digital lock on the door, which required a 6-digit password to unlock. Outside, I noticed Vanessa still struggling with the water in her ear, pinching her nose and trying to pop it out until her nose turned red. "Unlock it," she demanded, flashing her pitiful eyes at me. I chuckled, "Go to your room and shower there. There's only a shared toilet." "I want to take a long hot shower," she whined. I grimaced, "Don't waste the water. There's a limited supply." Seeing her frustration, I decided to help. "Lower the side where the water is, and jump a few times." "What?" she asked, confusion written all over her face. "Just do it," I instructed, unlocking the door for her. Vanessa stepped inside, tossing the towel onto the lounge chair before jumping once. "It doesn't work," she said, eyeing me suspiciously. "Keep doing it until it comes out." "It won't take long," I replied, rummaging through my bag for a bottle of Euphoria. The sun was nearing the horizon, and I wanted to enjoy the view. Vanessa jumped again, pausing to check for results, then jumping once more. She took long breaks in between, blaming me for her continued struggle. "You just want to watch me bounce, don't you?" she accused, her tone playful yet annoyed. Sighing, I walked toward her and grabbed her shoulder. She looked bewildered and bashful. What are you doing?" "We're going to jump," I said, and before she could protest, I pulled her in for a synchronized leap. As we jumped, her eyes widened in surprise, and then she suddenly realized the water had finally flowed out of her ear. A triumphant smile spread across her face, and I couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, it really works," she exclaimed excitedly. "Of course it'll work." "It's me," I replied smugly, turning to leave the room. But as I did, Vanessa turned and fumbled with her one-piece swimsuit, trying to unzip it but unable to find the zipper. Before I could step out, she called after me, "Ed, can you help me with this? I can't find it." "Huh? What?" I turned back, curious. "The zipper pull," she said urgently, running her hand along her back but only feeling the teeth of the zipper. I walked back inside and took a look, only to discover that the pull was indeed missing. "Oh, it's gone," I said casually. "Really? When?" she exclaimed, her urgency growing as she struggled with the wet fabric that clung to her skin. "How should I know? Maybe when you were swimming in the ocean? Honestly, this is what happens when you buy cheap swimsuits." "It's a $300 Victoria's Secret swimsuit," she shot back, clearly irritated. "I can't take it anymore. You need to cut me out of it." "Wait. Really?" I asked, surprised. "You'll be naked in front of me, though." She shot me a disdainful look. "Then it won't be the first time." "Huh? When did that happen before?" I asked, genuinely confused. Vanessa went momentarily speechless before finally saying, "My nudes were leaked, remember?" "That's different, though. You weren't within grabbing range then." I chuckled teasingly. Vanessa blushed but tried to act casual. "Well, it's you. I trust you." Before she could finish, I grabbed both parts of the zipper teeth and ripped it off. Her eyes widened in shock at my sudden action. "This is enough, right?" I asked nonchalantly. She turned toward me and hit my chest in frustration. "I just got it. Now you've ruined it. It's not like you had any bright idea to salvage it. What's the difference between this and cutting it off with scissors?" "Consent," she argued, her nostrils flaring in exasperation. I cackled and then walked away, problem solved anyway. "Wait," she called out just as I reached for the door handle. I sighed in exasperation and turned back to her. "What is it now?" I don't have any change of clothes. They're in Brenda's room. Can you go pick them up for me?" She tried to act cute, clearly hoping to win me over. I rolled my eyes. "There's a towel robe in my closet. Use that and get your own clothes after you finish showering." "Wait," she called again. Frustrated, I turned back to her and asked, "Why? What now?" Can you just stay here until I finish showering?" she asked, her eyes darting away as if hiding something. I caught on and pressed her, "What's going on? Why don't you want me up on the deck?" Who said anything about not letting you see the sunset?" "I just need some company, that's all," she said, avoiding eye contact. I chuckled. "I didn't say it was about the sunset." Her eyes widened in shock. I leaned in closer, teasingly, "So you don't want me up there, why? Tell me, or I'll go there now." With her back bare, Vanessa took a step back, trying to avoid my gaze, but she seemed mesmerized and couldn't look away. I moved forward, applying gentle pressure, and suddenly her bottom fell onto my bed. Vanessa sat on the edge, and I stood right in front of her, placing my hand on her chin to guide her gaze up. Her face flushed, and she bit her lip, glancing slightly at my crotch area before her sanity seemed to return. Vanessa hesitated, then sighed. "All right. Cat's out of the bag. I can't let you go up there. I overheard 2 or more girls saying they were going to make a move on you right then. It'll be too messy when you reject them, and it'll ruin the trip." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Really? And what makes you think I'd reject them?" Her expression fell slightly, and I smirked. "Thanks for the tip, by the way. There are a lot of girls who want to make a move on me. I'll be sure to think of you when I bring them back into my room later on." Vanessa scoffed, disdain evident in her voice. "Stop pretending. You weren't going to hook up at all. Otherwise, you'd have done it already." I shrugged. "Why would I hook up in broad daylight?" Vanessa's eyes widened as she realized what I meant. She stammered, "Wait. So you do want to?" "Not with you," I teased, giving her nose a gentle bop. Vanessa grumbled in dissatisfaction before shouting angrily, "Go on. Leave the room, you pervert." "You're the one topless on my bed," I said as I turned to walk away. "Topless," she echoed, confusion filling her voice. She glanced down, and her eyes went wide as she realized her top had fallen off, exposing her breast. Panic set in as the realization hit her. "Oh my God," she shouted, cursing my name multiple times as she scrambled to cover herself. "I'm going to use up all the water, you hear me?" Vanessa shouted in my direction, clearly wanting to punish me for not telling her about it earlier. As I made my way back to the deck, the sunset had begun. The horizon was painted in vibrant oranges and pinks, casting a warm glow over everything and creating a beautifully romantic atmosphere. But I couldn't enjoy the view for long. I soon felt predatory gazes coming from all directions. I chuckled to myself, maybe listening to Hudgens won't be so bad after all? Walking to the side of the deck, I settled into a lone lounge chair. I poured myself a glass of my Euphoria mixed drink, the shimmering liquid catching the fading sunlight before it glowed slightly inside the shot glass. I downed another shot of my drink, savoring the flavor as I hissed in satisfaction. That really hit the spot. Suddenly, I heard someone clear her throat beside me. I ignored it, pouring another glass of my concoction, but the throat clearing grew louder. Raising an eyebrow, I turned to see Ashley Benson standing there, adorned in a one-piece white gown, a large white hat perched stylishly atop her head, and white high heels that accentuated her long legs. She acted as if she was enjoying the view, but I could tell she was aware of my gaze. As she caught me looking, she grinned and sauntered over, sitting down on the same lounge chair, her back to me but her face turned slightly my way. I had to admit, she had planned this beautifully. The sunset bathed her in golden light, reflecting off her features in a way that made her look almost ethereal. "Hi Ed. We meet again," she said, her voice smooth as she lightly touched my hand. "We met by accident on the beach, and now here. I didn't believe in fate, but it does make one think, doesn't it?" "Damn, that was good," I mumbled as I applauded her opening line inwardly. Chapter 297, ID Part 3. Edward POV. "Did you take long to plan that?" "Wow," I teased, a playful smirk on my face. Ashley blushed slightly, a hint of embarrassment creeping onto her cheeks. She chuckled dryly, but her expression quickly shifted from disappointment to elation when I continued, "Lucky for you, I'm a sucker for stuff like that. It reminds me of the anime I've watched." "Oh, that works?" "You're easy," she teased flirtatiously. I pretended to be baffled, raising an eyebrow. "I'm a man. We will talk to a tree if they start a conversation with us. This is the first time a girl ever tried to pick me up, so I'm really looking forward to what you have in store." "Sorry to disappoint, but that's it. I didn't plan further than that," Ashley said with a slight smirk, her hand resting gently on my forearm. I scoffed, feigning offense. "You already threw the conversation to me?" "Isn't that a man's job?" she shot back playfully. I tried using the old subtle look at you, but you ignored it all. "Yeah, I did that on purpose," I admitted with a grin, enjoying the playful back and forth. She looked a bit taken aback and said, disappointedly, "Should I take that as a hint to get lost then?" I didn't respond directly to that. Instead, I said, I had a plan in mind to decompress alone, but the plan has changed. "Want a drink? Wait, I shouldn't offer you this one." I turned, scanning the deck for a staff member to bring her a drink, but I couldn't find anyone. "Why not?" she asked incredulously. "Are you the type not to share your drinks?" I turned back to her and replied, "This is almost pure vodka. I know I'm drinking it, but I don't want to be the one who offers it to underage girls." She exclaimed in realization, slightly nodding her head. "I was thinking it was weird that you were drinking sparkling water like taking a shot." "It's fine. I can drink it." "Yeah, you look like you do," I said seriously. She looked befuddled. "What does that mean?" "I don't know. You just have that vibe. Like you may have liver problems. Or was just done with life." "At my age?" she asked, shock evident in her voice. "Ah, I get what you mean, she said, suddenly nodding in understanding. A lot of people ask me if I'm tired even though I'm at my peak form. Like this. She dropped her smile and put on a poker face. I scrutinized her, chuckling lightly. Yeah, definitely not tired. More like you're mad at the world and everything in it. Or, just hungry. Wait, really? She cupped her mouth, then touched her face slightly. Did it reveal too much? I snorted, laughing. It really does. So, want to get something to eat? She suddenly invited me. Are you asking me to dinner? I asked, disbelief coloring my tone. You said you had no more plans, but that was pretty smooth. She clicked her tongue in satisfaction, shrugging as if enjoying the compliment. It wasn't a plan. I'm just that smooth. For someone who doesn't like to socialize with people, you kinda are, I noted, genuinely amazed. Ashley looked befuddled. How did you know that? You don't like socializing? I replied. I noticed it from the very beginning. You're someone who would rather spend your days alone inside your house, watching TV and eating snacks than going to a party. I can bet you were only here because you were dragged into it. She blinked, taken aback. Wow, you really read me well. Shay dragged me here. Shay? Shay Mitchell? I mumbled, finally recalling the girl Ashley had been talking about. She was one of the cast members from Pretty Little Liars. Then it hit me that Ashley was in the show too. The series had a great start but suffered in the last few seasons. I poured myself another glass and downed it, feeling the warmth spread through me. Ashley's eyes were glued to the drink, and she asked, "Can I try that? You seem to really enjoy it." I can honestly say that the best drink in the world would pale in comparison to what I'm drinking, I replied with a slight smirk, feeling my mind begin to feel hazy as I started to get drunk. Now I definitely have to try it, she said, picking up my empty glass and gesturing for me to pour more. I shrugged and said, well then, don't blame me if you can't handle it. I usually do just fine with alcohol, she bragged, confidence brimming in her voice. I hesitated for a moment before finally deciding to share. Only one glass, all right? Stingy, she teased as I poured the drink for her. She took a sip, her eyes widening in surprise. Even her pupils seemed to enlarge. Then, she quickly downed the entire thing and exclaimed in satisfaction, a drunken blush immediately appearing on her face. Oh my God, that was great! She declared, her head dropping onto my arm as she laid down next to me. Her words slurred together as she added, once more please. We shared another drink as we enjoyed the sunset, however after that second one, her body swayed and she fell asleep. I snorted derisively. And you said you can handle your alcohol. The solution was 70% euphoria and 30% sparkling water and lime. No one could handle it other than myself and surprisingly, Max. I figured the effect wouldn't last long. She'd wake up in about half an hour. I glanced down at Ashley, bemused by how quickly she had succumbed to sleep. She had picked a great spot to rest her head right on my bicep, though her face was turned away from mine. I could feel her nuzzle in closer, pushing her back against me as if she wanted to settle more comfortably on the lounge chair. The chair was made for one person, but it was big enough for both of us. I shifted slightly to make room, even considering sitting up. However, she grabbed my arm and wouldn't let go. Then, unexpectedly, she turned over to get even more comfortable. From across the deck, Brenda and Vanessa both fell into disbelief as they noticed Ashley lying down next to me. They weren't looking at the situation together. Vanessa was with Shay, and Brenda was with Danielle. Vanessa mumbled with a slight furrow on her brow, "She's so forward." Brenda muttered, "That's very romantic." Sharing a lounge together, cuddling while watching the sunset. Ah, I want a boyfriend so bad. In a way, I did get my wish to drink alone without any interruptions. Ashley didn't wake up until after the sunset was over. Feeling a bit famished, I wanted to go inside and eat, but she hadn't woken up yet, so I had to wait. Time passed, and people had gone inside the yacht to drink, change their clothes, and party. but Ashley's eyes remained closed. I sighed softly, then noticed her pupils moving around under her eyelids. I almost burst out laughing but held it back. Benson, why don't you wake up now? If you were embarrassed, I can assure you, no one else knows that you passed out other than me. With her eyes still closed, she mumbled, Really? Yeah, it's only been half an hour, I replied, my speech slightly slurred. Ashley opened one eye to peek, and upon realizing there was no one around us, she slowly sat up and apologized, Sorry for the trouble. It's fine. Let's go grab dinner. What do you want to eat? I'll cook, I said casually, not minding the earlier affairs at all. During dinner, as I went behind the stove to cook for myself and Ashley, the rest of the crew, Vanessa, Brenda, Danielle, and basically everyone, decided they wanted to try my cooking too. Before I knew it, I became the designated cook for the entire ship. Lobster thermidor, seared salmon, and various fish dishes flowed out of the kitchen in a flurry. For myself, I had made a huge pot of Japanese-style seafood curry with rice, which took quite a while to complete. While I was cooking, my sous chef, the staff responsible for assisting in the kitchen, was handling some octopus when he accidentally cut the ink pouch. The ink flew everywhere, mostly landing on my white shirt and splattering my face. He looked at me with shock, but I didn't react much, still feeling the buzz from my earlier drinks. I smiled and said, Don't worry about it. Then, I took off my shirt, revealing my muscular torso as I continued cooking. With the light of the cooking fire reflecting on my sculpted abs, the girls' eyes become glued on the scene in front of them. Oh my God! I need a picture of this, Brenda exclaimed, pulling out her phone. Ed? Can I take a picture? Please. Sure, I replied casually, continuing to cook the steak shirtless. The girls swooned, while the guys were pushed backward, caught off guard by the unexpected dinner show. Finally, I finished cooking my crab curry, but those ungrateful hyenas managed to get to that too. Well, at least they are enjoying it, I mumbled in satisfaction, watching everyone stuff their faces with my food. Suddenly, I shouted, Make sure not to leave any leftovers. Or else I will leave you on the ship and make you apologize to the seafood family yourself. After dinner, feeling a bit worn out but satisfied, I wanted to hang out in my room, have some beer, and watch TV. Just as I settled in, I heard a soft knock on the door. The first people to knock were Brenda and Danielle. As I opened the door, Brenda rushed in, anxiety written all over her face. Ed, do you have anything that can save the party? I tried to make it work, but your staff wouldn't give me the booze I needed. That's because only you and Danielle are of legal drinking age, I replied. They're from a legitimate business. They won't let you do that. Damn it! But you're their boss. Brenda insisted urgently. Help me, and I'll give Danielle to you. Hey! Danielle protested. You can't whore me out for booze. Brenda suddenly spotted my Euphoria mixed drinks and exclaimed, Wait! There's one there. Danny, flash him your cooch to distract him. I'll steal it. Before she could finish her thought, I grabbed her hand firmly. Oh no, you don't. Both of you, out. No! Brenda shouted as Danielle dragged her out of the room. Just 2 minutes later, another knock sounded. I sighed and opened the door angrily. I'm not helping you. To my surprise, it was Ashley. She had changed her clothes and popped her head in, asking flirtatiously, Help me with what? Oh, sorry. I thought it was Brenda, I replied casually. Why are you here? Can I get a tour of your room? This is the only place inside the ship that I haven't seen yet, she requested, looking at me with anticipation. Wearing a slightly baggy punk metal shirt and yoga shorts, she looked comfortable and inviting. Sure, come on in, I said, stepping aside to let her enter. After I closed the door behind me, I found Ashley sitting on the edge of my bed. Your room is nice, she remarked, already finished with her quick tour. She spotted the beer on my table and asked with a hint of concern, You're going to drink again? Ah, that's right, I replied, cracking open a beer and settling into a chair nearby. She continued, Why? Is it because of the incident? I silently agreed with her concern. Ashley pressed on, so, you're going to drink until you drop? Now you look like someone famous in Hollywood. I chuckled and turned to her. You ought to know. You've been here a while. I've been here since I was 12. I've seen a lot of shit, she mumbled, grimacing as memories surfaced. Give me one, she said, reaching for a beer. I tossed one her way. But at least you're not snorting white stuff out of your nose, she joked, a playful smile creeping onto her face. If you did that too, then you'll definitely seem like a Hollywood superstar. Well, I don't want to brag, but I am pretty famous too. I replied with a slight chuckle. She looked up at me with a playful glint in her eye and asked, rather than drinking, do you want to play finger fighting with me, but instead of fingers, we use our tongues? I burst out laughing. That'll be a fun game. I sat next to her and, in a bold move, grabbed her by the neck, pulling her face closer to mine. Ashley smiled in anticipation as she inched closer, and soon our lips met in a passionate kiss. Suddenly, around 3 minutes in, she pulled back slightly and said, by the way, I'm not looking for a relationship. This is just a casual thing. I'm fine with that, I replied reassuringly. Pulling her in closer, I kissed her neck softly, savoring the moment. Suddenly, she pushed me back to lay down, then jumped on top of me, showering me with kisses. Ashley was more forward than I thought. All she cared about was the pleasure. We were quite compatible, so it made this session even more satisfying. An hour and a half later, we lay side by side in our natural human state. Her hair disheveled, and she panted slightly as she closed her eyes. That was amazing, she said breathlessly. We need to do that again, she mumbled. I smirked as I turned toward her. That's work. She suddenly turned towards me and said, just remember that I'm not looking for a relationship, so don't fall for me. Or be clingy after this. We share the same sentiment there. I said with a soft smile. I was going to go away for the world tour in 20 days anyway, so I wasn't going to date anyone. Her brows furrowed with concern before she said defensively, fearing that I would have the wrong impression about her, I have my reasons not to get into any sort relationship. I'm only doing this with you because I think you're great. I'm not doing this with just anyone. Are you afraid that I'll think of you as a whore? I asked with a slight chuckle. Ashley grimaced in dissatisfaction before saying, I'm telling you I'm not a slut. Then, I'll believe you. I said reassuringly. Ashley smiled in satisfaction as she believed me easily before she drifted off to sleep while I spooned her. Soon, I activated my rest skill and followed her into slumber, content and at ease. /N, I tried really hard not to make it romantic lol. 4 hours later, I woke up feeling refreshed. My skin even had a slight glow, and my mind felt clear. Wait, was I just pent up? I mumbled in surprise. I checked on Ashley and found her deep in sleep, so I quietly left to take a shower before heading outside my room. There were still 3 hours until sunrise, and I wanted to see what was going on with the party. To my surprise, I spotted only one person on the lounge and deck. Vanessa was lying on the lounge chair I had used earlier. She noticed me approaching and said, the return boat got here an hour ago. A lot of people have gone too. Only Brenda, Shay, and Danielle stayed behind since they don't have any plans for tomorrow. I had arranged transport for JB to get back to the port the night before. After the party on the yacht died down when Brenda and I went to our room, some of the party enthusiasts decided to jump on the return boat to go party at the clubs. I don't care about that, I said, dragging another chair over to sit down. Why are you out here? With a sarcastic tone, she replied, I can't sleep. The people in the next room were really noisy. She kept moaning and screaming, so I had to escape. Sorry, that was my ID. I lost all sense of reason there, I replied casually. Huh? What's an ID? She asked, confusion flickering across her face. It's a psychological thing. It's boring, I said dismissively, but she urged, I'm not dumb. Explain. Well, if you really want to know. Simply put, Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, identified three components of the mind: the ID, the ego, and the superego. The ID represents instinctual desires, the superego embodies our moral standards, and the ego acts as the mediator that balances the two. Freud compared the ego, in its relation to the ID, to a man on horseback. The rider must restrain and direct the superior energy of his animal and at times allow for a satisfaction of its urges if he wants to keep it alive and the species healthy. I continued with a slight smirk. Vanessa made a disgusted face and mumbled, "Don't use science to defend why you're a man whore." "I'm not the one who got turned on by a little moaning," I teased. Vanessa looked at me with disbelief before saying, "Aren't you the least bit apologetic? And it's really loud, like animals in heat." Before she could finish, she realized she was about to support my point, grimacing and stopping herself. "I'm not sorry at all," I replied casually, lying down on the chair next to hers. Vanessa furrowed her eyebrows and sarcastically guessed, "Ah, so you shot your humanity inside her too?" I didn't finish in her, I smirked. Vanessa got irritated, saying, "Stop talking about your sex life. Are you trying to make fun of me because I didn't have any?" She grabbed my arm, forcing me to look into her eyes. "I can if I want to. I'm just choosing not to. You seem pent up. You definitely should try it." "I mean, I did it, and now I'm more chill," I said teasingly. Vanessa scowled before standing up. "I'm going to go to bed." "Your party sucks." "It's Brenda's party," I corrected her as she walked away. "Shut up, jerk." She cursed before she entered the lounge again. I chuckled and then mumbled to myself, "Ah, she's going to miss the best part." I signaled Dwayne to turn off the lights other than what's necessary. In the darkness, the hidden beauty of the sea was finally revealed. The sky was a breathtaking tapestry of stars, shimmering like diamonds scattered across velvet. The half-moon cast a silvery glow, illuminating the area surrounding the yacht. I stayed there until the sun rose before having breakfast. Danielle and Brenda joined me, and Vanessa didn't come out until 11 a.m. Ashley, not being a morning person, kept sleeping until I returned to the room, trying to wake her up. "Hey Benson, we're going home now," I told her. She grumbled before opening her eyes and asked, "What time is it?" "Noon," I replied. 12:30. "We'll be back at?" she asked groggily. "Around 2. I replied. "Great, then, there's time to do it once more," she said before she sat up and hugged me from behind. Her hand slowly caressed my abs before she snuck it inside my pants. We did it once more while we were changing our clothes. When we arrived at the dock, Benson asked for my personal number. "We should definitely become friends," she suggested. "Friends, with benefits?" I said. She nodded slightly, and then I thought about it before replying, "All right. Deal." We decided to become casual friends for now, as we were both single, and she wasn't interested in having a real relationship. The yacht sailed toward a private port in Malibu, a different one from the one in Los Angeles where we started our trip. As the port there was filled with paparazzi, I decided to anchor the ship to avoid the unwanted attention. Brenda asked worriedly after we docked, "We don't have our cars. How can we go home now?" Danielle also expressed her concerns, "There will be traffic. It'll take a long time to get back." "Don't worry about that," I said with a smile. "Our transport is here." As I looked at the sky, a black helicopter flew toward us. There was a helicopter landing spot 200 meters away from where we were. All of us walked to the helicopter after it landed. Vanessa's face was pale as she climbed aboard. As she strapped on the seatbelt and wore the microphone and headset, I asked, "Are you afraid of flying?" Vanessa sat right in front of me, and Benson sat on my right. Brenda, Danielle, and Benson were excited to fly, but Vanessa became increasingly pale by the second. "A little bit," she replied. I smirked before saying, "Then, don't look outside." "Why?" "Are we already in the air?" she asked fearfully. The door wasn't even closed yet, but she already thought we were flying. I grabbed her hand and made her focus on me. Hey, look at me. You're going to be alright. It's only for 20 minutes. Okay? She nodded without a word. But she didn't let go of my hand and kept holding it throughout the whole ride. Benson noticed and smiled. She didn't ask her question before we landed, but then she whispered it in my ear. Are you sleeping with Hudgens too? She asked. I was startled and turned toward her. No, we're just friends. Really? Too bad. I'm pretty sure there's something there between you two. Or maybe I'm mistaken, she mumbled. Chapter 298, ID Part 4 Final. General POV. When JB and the other partygoers returned to the port, there was a swarm of reporters and paparazzi camping out in front of the dock. Justin, did you have fun at Newgate's party? A middle-aged paparazzo said sleazily as he snapped pictures of the partygoers. Where's the yacht? Another shouted. Did you hook up with anyone? A paparazzo shouted invasive questions without even a change in his expression. Justin and Taylor Lautner, being the most famous people there, were encircled by the paparazzi as they asked questions about the party. Most of them were curious about where the yacht was and why they had come back early. Was the party a bore? A reporter shouted as she pointed a recording device at Emily Ratajkowski. Emily was startled, and she blurted out, "No. It was very fun." The reporter quickly took some notes and quoted her for the article she was going to write. Edward's security helped the guests get away. Taylor Lautner just walked on by without caring about the paparazzi, but Justin smirked and went to talk with one of them. He remembered one of the pieces of advice Edward had given him and wanted to try it out. The paparazzi's eyes lit up, and they ignored the other guests as they caught a big fish. JB. Who invited you there? Was it Edward? A reporter asked. Amidst the flurry of questions thrown at him, JB focused on that and replied, no. It's actually Brenda Song's party. Then, how come it's held on Newgate's ship? Another reporter asked. JB explained, first, Ed wanted to go on a trip to clear his mind, but Brenda called several people over, turning it into a party. In fact, we don't even party much. What did you do instead? The same reporter asked. JB replied with a chuckle, we played games, watched the Spider-Man movie, watched the sunset, and ate good food. That's all. Flashback. On the ship, during dinner, JB asked Edward, man, how do you handle the press so well? JB was sitting on the kitchen counter while Edward was rinsing off the crabs. Edward turned to him and replied, first of all, you have to understand something. Your fans are obsessed with you. They want to know everything you're doing, your underwear brand, your hair products, everything they can get. The press has the same desire, but they have their own agendas. So you have to make sure to choose how to disseminate your information so that they will suffer if they try to paint you in a bad light, he continued. Who will make them suffer on my behalf? JB asked, slightly raising his eyebrow. Should I get in contact with some thugs? As JB didn't have any contact with Diddy yet, he didn't really know how to navigate Hollywood right now. Edward licked the curry paste he had made off his finger before replying, the one that will make them suffer is your fans. So put your trust in them. One day, you could even become a modern slave to the people you trust, but your fans will be the greatest help you can get through that. Example, Free Britney movement. Brenda raised her hand as she listened in on the advice and asked Edward, how can we choose to reveal the whatnot? Edward looked towards her and realized that not only Brenda, but also Taylor Lautner, Danielle Panabaker, Vanessa Hudgens, and Emily were listening in on the conversation. Edward sighed and said, let me give you an example. A reporter asks you about this party. What should you say? Nothing, right? JB replied. Edward shook his head and said, you should tell them what's going on from your point of view. Share things that won't bring you any trouble. You can say you enjoyed the delicious dinner I cooked, but don't mention that you paired it with some wine or who you were eating it with. Just keep it general or vague. Won't they press on, though? Brenda asked. Edward replied, they would, but they're going to be so busy writing it down that you can take control of the situation. At that gap between questions, take the initiative to bring it to another topic. Something more interesting, weird, or surprisingly fresh, or something very shocking that will divert their attention from the first question. Flashback ends. The reporters paused, intrigued by his response. "Why Spider-Man?" one of them asked, clearly curious. As the paparazzi continued to bombard JB with questions, he chuckled and replied, "I never watched it, so Ed made me. My hands are tied. Literally. He forced me to watch it." He laughed, trying to keep the mood light. He pointed to the camera and said, "Now I'm hooked. Remember this, my fans, if I become a nerd, it's all Newgate's fault." Flashback. Edward leaned in, chuckling softly. "Listen, there's a line in that movie. The Green Goblin says, the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, die trying. In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually, they will hate you. Well, we're not heroes, but that's relevant to us too." Edward continued, "This is important for you. Your public image matters. Protect it, or it will affect your whole life. You can socialize and get to know people, but never let your guard down unless you are absolutely certain you can trust them." What's the quote again? JB asked, puzzled. Edward raised one of his eyebrows and asked, "It's Spider-Man." "You don't remember Spider-Man?" "I think I watched it when I was a kid. I don't remember much. Or maybe I never watched it?" "I don't know," JB replied, a bit abashed. Edward looked at him in disbelief. "You never watched Spider-Man? No wonder your childhood sucked." Edward exclaimed, shaking his head. "Spencer." Edward turned to the staff member, "Start up the projector. JB needs to watch the movie tonight." "I don't want to," JB was startled. "You don't need to." Edward interjected, clarifying, "You don't have to actually watch it. It's just one of the cover stories you can use later on. You can do what you want." JB breathed a sigh of relief after hearing that. He planned to try and pick up the girl he had been talking with, however, when the movie played, the girl wanted to watch it. JB reluctantly watched it with her and found himself hooked on the story. Near the climax, the girl suddenly raised her hand and forced out a yawn. She turned to JB and said, "I'm feeling quite tired. I'm going to my room." She hinted at JB by touching his arm slightly and asked, "Want to come with?" What?" JB replied, his eyes still glued to the screen. "I'm going to my room," the girl said again. However, JB didn't even turn to her and said, "Oh, okay then. Good night." The girl was speechless and huffed as she went back alone. JB watched the full movie and even continued to watch the second one, unaware of the sacrifice he had unintentionally missed. "How did I never watch this movie before?" he mumbled as he grabbed the remote and increased the sound volume of the movie. Flashback ends. The articles were quickly written and uploaded to numerous gossip sites. They discussed Brenda and Edward's close relationship, noting that he even lent her his yacht. Emily's quote about the fun party, along with JB's account of what happened, made people think that it was just a simple relaxation trip for the celebrity youngsters. However, the headlines were still quite scandalous. Hudgens and Newgate's yacht adventure, are they more than just friends? Shocking details inside. This was on the cover of a tabloid website. Scandal on the high seas, did Newgate's yacht party hide a secret romance? JB's wild night out, did he choose Newgate's yacht over Diddy's famous party? Is this trip going to be the new Diddy party? Although JB's interview eased the speculation about the trip, and Brenda's confirmation about the party being hers put her in the spotlight for a bit, some fans were wondering if it was just a simple trip. Then why did the most important figure around Edward not come to the party, specifically referring to Taylor? Although there were questions, people were still more excited about the new revelation, JB and Edward's friendship. Both of the hottest teenage pop stars of the era were hanging out, and JB's answer made it seem like they were good friends. Unfortunately, it also sparked the rise of JB Edward shippers on the internet. These shippers, who were on the same level as furries on the dark web, emerged from their deep, dark caves and tried to breach the mainstream line, but they were shot down immediately by people with common sense. However, they weren't shoved back down empty-handed, as these monsters managed to convert a number of people into their cult before they disappeared. Lily, Edward's fan club president, breathed heavily as she read the fanfiction some people had made about those two in some deep corner of the internet. How dare they, she mumbled. However, she kept scrolling. Her face flushed with excitement, and she was even unaware of the blood flowing down her nose. Edward POV. After I returned to my house, I suddenly received a call from Brooklyn Nine-Nine Sergeant Terry Jeffords. Robin chimed in as I stepped foot into my living room. He has been calling all day. Including him, you have a total of 102 missed calls and 432 text messages asking about your well-being. It's recommended that you reply to these concerns to put your associates at ease. I will, I replied as I threw my bag on the couch. When I went on the trip, I decided not to use my phone and made Robin screen out the calls, only connecting me if my presence was urgently needed. Answer it. I leaned on the desk as I connected the call from Terry. Then, I heard Rosa's voice coming from the other side of the call. Finally, she said through gritted teeth. How dare you go no contact when the last thing we knew about you was that you wound up at the hospital with blood all over. What happened over there? Hi, Rosa, I replied cheekily. About that, I told her all about Chloe and the near-death experience she had while working on the case. Terry listened in too and said worriedly, I knew it was a bad idea to have you working on a case. This is adult business. Kids have no place being inside of it. No matter how smart you are. I'm calling the judge and having her change up your community service. Wait. I hurriedly stopped him. Terry, wait. Don't do that. I need this to make sure I can meet my schedule before my world tour. If it changes to ordinary community service, then I will have to postpone my tour. Rosa interjected in an angry tone, isn't your tour starting next year? You still have some time to settle it. Don't use the tour as an excuse. It may seem like I have time, but I'm shooting a movie right now, remember? I even have a 2-day concert on the 20th in Las Vegas. By the way, I can fly you guys out if you want to come. I suddenly heard Jake's voice from afar during the phone call. He asked Rosa, is he all right? He's fine. Just being a little bitch, Rosa replied. Jake was excited and said, great. I imagined he snatched the phone from Rosa or Terry, as his voice was the main one next. Ed. Sucks to be you. But I just closed my 7th felony this morning. You know what that means? That you're one day too late to win the bet? I guessed, pouring cold water on Jake's excitement. What? But I solved the case. Jake asked, befuddled. I got 20. You only have 10, he whined. The last case I submitted is a serial arsonist case. It's worth 10 points. I forgot to tell you yesterday because of the whole hospital situation and needing to clear my mind, but I want it yesterday. Jake yelped, and his voice became strained. I'll call you right back. Then, he cut the call. Robin, what's he doing now? I asked Robin to eavesdrop, as I was curious. Robin replied, Detective Peralta is trying to convince everyone to pretend the bet never happened and that your mind made it up after experiencing a traumatic memory. His second plan is for everyone to change their names. I nodded in amazement and said, that can actually work. I need to try it out sometime. Just gaslight people into thinking their memories are fake. Wait, let me try it out. Call Jacob. Jacob had called me a lot of times yesterday. I had to return his call anyway, so I decided to try it out on him. Hi Jacob. Do you want to hang out again today? We just met yesterday, I said as soon as he picked up the call. Huh? Jacob sounded confused and forgot his questions. We didn't meet yesterday, he asked, surprised. We kinda did, remember? I sent you that telepathic link only a bro could hear, and we hung out. You don't remember that? I asked casually. If you're trying to trick me, that's too much. I still have some common sense, Jacob replied with an annoyed tone. I burst into laughter and said, I knew it wouldn't work the moment it came out of my mouth. How are you? Jacob asked. I had a conversation with him for a while before he asked, we're going to hang out at Jenna's place on the 15th. Are you coming? I have my final scene in the morning, but I guess I can hang out after that, I replied casually. Great. You need to decide if you want to be an elf or Santa. Enid plans something. I don't know what, Jacob replied wearily. He had tried to talk Enid out of it, but since she received support from the other girls in the group, he had to go alone. I was startled at first before I asked, Santa? It's like a secret Santa thing. I have no idea what she wants to do, Jacob said. I talked with him a bit more before calling the others and reassuring them that I was fine. After that, I sighed and said, it's tough when you know a lot of people. In my previous life, I just had to care about one. A wave of nostalgia hit me, and I began to miss Nani. I guess I'm going to cook Nani's favorite recipe tonight, I mumbled before my phone rang again. Terry finally called me back. So, you won, Terry said with a depressed tone. Then, he suddenly got a bit hopeful. But do you even remember what the bet prize is? You'll go a week without suspenders. Rosa will send me a selfie of her smiling, which I will frame and hang on my walls forever, I muttered. Rosa interjected, do that, and I'll gut you like a fish. Are you going back on your word, Rosa? I thought you were better than that, I said snidely. Rosa growled and didn't say anything, expressing her silent agreement that she would honor the bet. Boyle will eat whatever Jake is eating, I continued. And lastly, Jake and Amy will have to go on a date together. I have booked the restaurant, and it's hella classy. Jake begged, wait. Can you do it somewhere where I only need to spend $20? 'Cause that's all I have right now. Don't worry about it. I'm covering the bills. I'll also be sending you guys the attire you're going to wear for the evening, I said confidently. Jake and Amy exclaimed excitedly, woo, but as they turned their faces and met each other's eyes, they stopped abruptly, becoming awkward instead. You guys also have to answer 20 questions before finishing up the date. I'll update the questions in real time, and Gustav, the manager of the restaurant, will make sure you guys answer them all honestly before you can leave. I wondered if the questions designed to accelerate intimacy that Penny and Sheldon would do in the future would help bring those two together. Right now, their relationship was plain awkward. They accepted the consequences of their betting after a thorough discussion. Amy made sure I wouldn't add anything else about the matter when I suddenly heard Jake grumble, this is all Holt's fault. If he doesn't mess around, then we won't fail spectacularly like this. Wait, Holt interfered? I asked with intrigue. So does that mean he's part of the bet? Jake suddenly became excited and said, I like where you're going with this. So, if his interference is the cause of you guys losing, then make him accept the punishment too, I said. Let me talk to him. After the squad hassled Holt about his involvement, he finally became defeated and said, fine. I'll admit that my interference became a major factor in causing you guys to lose. Even if you were going to lose, you deserve to have a fair fight in it. I accept responsibility for it. Enough talk, Captain, Jake said excitedly. We are all in this together, not High School Musical, but as a detective squad. Edward, please present Captain Holt with the whip. Whip? I asked, fully shocked. Is that a racial thing? Is it because he's black? I asked, pretending to be innocent. Jake was flabbergasted and said, no. I meant the punishment thing. Holt piled on, it's kinda weird to categorize a whip as a punishment for a black man anyway. I'm not racist. I was too excited. I chuckled and said, because of that, I have to tweak Captain Holt's punishment a bit. I wanted to make him listen to my album and slowly seduce him to become my fan, but instead, there's a barrel exhibit in downtown New York. Holt is going to take Jake there and explain all about the barrels displayed in the exhibit. Holt asked, slightly surprised, wait. So for my punishment, you want me to teach Jacob about barrels? I agreed with him, yes, and later that night, Jake is going to bring Amy there after their dinner together, and he's going to repeat everything you said to her. I know that extensive knowledge about a certain studious topic will surely turn Amy on. It will? Jake asked. Amy shouted into the phone, "No, it won't," but her tone was unconvincing. "I will honor my punishment fairly," Holt said. "I'll make sure to hammer all the knowledge I have onto Jacob before the date begins." He can use hammer. Is hammer not racist? Jake mumbled to himself. Great. Then you'll have 4 hours. The restaurant reservation is tonight, I said before I cut the call and arranged everything for the date. I managed to sneak in a bath and change my clothes before my phone rang again. It's priority 1. Robin alerted. Answer it. I replied. Hey, Peps, I'm going to go to the company now. Before I could finish, Pepper interrupted me, saying, "We finished, don't come. Rest." Why are you coming here? He scolded me first before continuing with his initial topic. We finished the trailer for the movie. If you say it's okay, then we can release it. Already? I asked, slightly surprised. You don't sound confident. But that's fine. I know you have a really high standard. We are confident that we've reached it with this trailer edit. I'll send it to you now. Okay, I'll wait, I replied. Pepper cut the call, and I loitered around the living room, waiting for the file to arrive. I even had time to eat some bread before Pepper finally figured out how to send the file using email. He didn't, he asked Ronaldo for help. As I watched the trailer, I scrutinized it and gave my notes to Pepper through a phone call. The music came in way too early. It needs to be at the 1-minute mark. And the trailer gives away too much. I wanted to stop abruptly and trigger people's desire to know more about it. I don't want a trailer that reveals the entire plot. Then what's the point of watching it? Less me, more Ryan and Emily in it. Pepper said sternly, no. We already felt that there's not enough of you in the trailer. Son, he wants to cut out Ryan's screen time to only 20 seconds. I was startled and asked, she's from the gaming division. Why is she even there? Rubbing my sore forehead, I said, I'm coming to the company. Judd is there too, right? He is, he's laughing at me the whole time, Pepper said with dissatisfaction. He already expected I won't like it, didn't he? I asked Pepper knowingly. He said it's fine enough for a trailer. Not good. Fine. Grabbing my car key, I said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Chapter 299, Crossing Off To-Do Lists. Edward POV. It's finished. Pepper hailed the sky and shouted dramatically. Sitting behind him on his CEO desk at his spot, I retorted, the trailer only. The movie is still halfway done. We were inside the CEO's office. There were empty sushi boxes on the coffee desk on the receiving guest's couch from where we had dinner and discussed the trailer. Judd was here for a bit before he went to the film set an hour ago. We could have done the trailer edit in 20 minutes, but I wanted a scene which has unfinished CGI to be inserted in it, so it took longer. I used Robin's help to complete the CGI and it only took half an hour. I took only 3 seconds of it for the trailer. After hearing my retort, Pepper widened his eyes in disbelief and turned towards me. I thought we only had 3 more days of shooting? I nodded, understanding where he was coming from. 3 days to film the scenes. Then editing, CGI, test screenings, reshoots if necessary, background music, marketing. Inside my mind, I was wondering if I could use the Unreal Engine to actually make an animated movie. With Robin and myself collaboration, maybe? But even if I do try to make an animated film, it wouldn't be at this period of time. Pepper held his head in agony and said, "Stop. You're making my head hurt." I continued without sympathy, we still have merchandising, and also, this is a very important part, the deal with the cinemas. Harvey almost finalized that, so we don't have to worry about it. As I sent the trailer to Judd Apatow for evaluation, I said, wait, 2 days. Then release the trailer. It's now December 13th, so it will be released on the 15th. Pepper grinned in satisfaction, pride radiating from him. Finally! My dream will come true. I thought your dream was to become richer than Brittany? I said with a slight chuckle. Speaking of Brittany, Pepper sat down in front of me, across the table, and said, her business manager, Lou Taylor, wants a meeting. Definitely not. I widened my eyes slightly and said decisively. Especially not her. No matter what comes out of her mouth, don't believe her in the slightest. Why? What has she done? Pepper asked, intrigued by the potential drama. I smirked slightly and said, if you're interested, then let me tell you the horrifying story of Lou Taylor. YouTube it if you want. I can't explain it simply. Pepper's face became increasingly paler as I told him the story. He then stammered and shot up from his chair. This, and the Diddy thing. This industry. I had no idea there was so much darkness hiding in plain sight. Did I really make the right choice helping you step into this cesspool of filth? Pepper, will you do to me the things they did to Brittany or the other victims? I interjected, cutting through his spiraling thoughts. He snapped back, of course not. Then you have nothing to worry about. I aimed to soothe him. Don't worry, Peps. I'm wrapped in protection like a condom while I waddle through this pool of waste. Besides, you've forgotten one crucial point. What is it? He looked at me, still concerned. Also, never forget your protection, especially when you go on a trip again, he chimed in sarcastically, but I ignored that. I leaned back and replied with a smirk, to trap me in their webs, they'll need to be at least smarter than I am. Suddenly, the door burst open, and Frankie stomped inside. If only they could see how clueless you've been these last few days, then that statement is invalid. Stunned, I turned toward her and said, I've been meaning to call. I did text you back, didn't I? A few hours ago, Frankie said with a stoic face, but anger radiated from her. I gulped and turned to Pepper. Peps, some help? No, you are on your own. Pepper, also fearful, slowly walked out of the room. Before he left completely, he turned to Frankie and said, right, now that both of you are here, I'm reminded of that college you guys bought. What happened to that? Frankie turned to reply, as Pepper was still legally the boss. The reconstruction is 50% complete. It's expected to be finished by next year. Oh, right. The community college. My way out of this, I muttered aloud without realizing it. Frankie turned back toward me with a look of confusion, but I was already calling someone through Pepper's laptop. Within 5 seconds, Dr. Amy Farrah Fowler, Sheldon's future girlfriend and wife, answered the call. Hello there, celebrity entrepreneur and budding scientist, Edward Newgate. Her face appeared on the screen as it was a Skype call. She wore her glasses and her lab coat as usual. Frankie placed her hands on her hips and said angrily, really? You're calling someone right when I want to talk to you? No, Frankie. I just remembered something urgent when you mentioned the college, I said, turning back to Dr. Amy. How's the research going? Did you find a way to help Britta? The monkey bite and whatever toxins were flowing in Britta's bloodstream would require extensive research to address. So I outsourced it to the future Nobel Prize winner, and she did an amazing job. Britta? Frankie mumbled, then she remembered the infected girl. Oh, right. I can see why that's more urgent. She calmed down a bit and stood beside me. Amy said in a matter-of-fact tone, I was going to email you about the subject later tonight. In my report, it'll state that while I've identified the chemicals affecting the patient, I'm unable to provide a solution. Why? I raised an eyebrow. Can you send the report to me now? I asked, urgency creeping into my tone. Certainly, Amy replied before she started typing. Soon, I received the report. My brows furrowed deeper as I read the pages. Does the cure require strontium-90? I asked, halfway through the report. Amy nodded. Yes. The harmful chemicals have already penetrated her brain. Only strontium-90, used as a catalyst, can help her. However, at the moment, the byproducts from nuclear reactions are not available. Let me guess, they won't give it to you, I interjected with a heavy sigh. Amy nodded slightly. I have no influence over the Institute of Nuclear Energy. I've asked them to procure it for me, but all available strontium-90 reserves are currently being used for high-energy nuclear experiments. I thought about it briefly before asking, how long does Britta have before it becomes irreversible? About a week, Amy replied in a slightly somber tone. After that, her brain will be severely damaged. She could experience hallucinations, dissociative identity issues, manic behavior, paranoia, and possibly suicidal or murderous thoughts. Poor girl, I mumbled to myself before turning to Amy with a smile. I'm bringing her here. And I'll see if I can obtain the strontium-90 myself. There are no legal ways to procure it right now, Amy warned. I smirked and said, legality is just something poor people worry about. Anyway, the less you know, the better. I agree with that arrangement, Amy said easily before adding, if there's nothing else, I'd like to focus on my experiment now. That's it. Goodbye, Dr. Fowler. Goodbye, Edward Newgate, Amy said before she ended the call. I turned to Frankie, who had a worried expression on her face, and said, I have to take a rain check on that lecture. As you can see, someone's life is in jeopardy. One of these days, you're going to run out of people to save, and by then, I'm going to give you an earful, Frankie said, slightly angry. I just chuckled dryly and said, by the way, I should invite Abed too. He can take a look at the movie. Wait, you aren't really going to try to buy those in the black market, are you? Frankie asked with a slight alarm after thinking about my conversation with Dr. Fowler. I smirked slightly and said, I'm just saying that to act cool. Frankie breathed in relief, but was frazzled when I continued, I already have that stuff in my lab. I'll just give it to Dr. Fowler for her to synthesize the cure. You have it in your lab? Frankie shouted in shock. I was trying to recreate some weapons I saw in the memory of the Mass Effect world, not to sell it or anything, but I was curious to see if I could. So I had a lot of unusual stuff inside my lab. Some were even used to upgrade my house's defense. General POV. In Annie's apartment in Colorado, Jeff, Abed, Troy, Pierce, Shirley, and Britta decided to have Christmas dinner there instead of in the study room, as that place was under construction. As Abed sat on the couch watching reruns of Friends, he mumbled, now that Troy and I are roommates, and Annie and Britta live together. Temporarily. Annie chimed in as she brought a plate of yams to the dining table. The apartment she lived in was the one Edward had lived in before, making it the biggest compared to all the others. Abed ignored Annie and continued, Jeff is living downstairs. We need to decide who is who. Who is who for what? Troy asked with an excited expression. Jeff scoffed and said, he's talking about which Friends characters we are. I'm telling you now, I'm not going to be Ross, even though I was the only one who lived alone. Abed turned to Jeff and said, you're not Ross. Thank you. Jeff relaxed, but then Abed continued, you're Gunther. I am not Gunther. You take that back. Jeff stood up from the couch, emotionally charged. Troy is Joey. Annie is Monica. Phoebe is Britta. I'm Chandler, and Shirley is Rachel. Ah. How nice, Shirley said sweetly as she placed her pies on the table. Pierce asked excitedly, what about me? Am I Ross? Shirley grimaced instantly and said, now you're taking the fun out of it. You're Mr. Heckles, Troy teased Pierce. How dare you? Pierce wanted to snap, but then he asked, who's Mr. Heckles? Just someone who looks exactly like you. Can we eat yet? Jeff asked, wanting to change the subject when suddenly Britta said, who cares if I'm Phoebe or Rachel, or Chandler? I'm going to forget who I am soon enough. Jeff retorted sarcastically, you don't have amnesia. You're just going crazy. It's the same thing, Britta said. When I become crazy, I'm going to forget who I am. What if I start to get a 9-to-5 job, climb the corporate ladder at a corporation that kills babies, or worse, marry a disaster of a husband and tell everyone that underneath all that, he's a good guy? Jeff snorted and said, "Sounds like you need to check your definition of crazy." "But am I wrong to worry?" Britta asked argumentatively. Jeff thought about it for a while and said, "Maybe." He placed his hand on Britta's thigh and added, "So, before you actually become all that, you have a choice. Go out on a date with me." Britta got angry and said, "I'm sorry, I'm here worrying about my brain, and you're worrying about getting in my pants?" Jeff was a bit frazzled and replied, "Well, when you turn crazy, then I don't think I can ask you out anymore, as I would be taking advantage of someone who's mentally unwell." Shirley and Annie gasped at the same time. "Britta's going crazy? Why?" Pierce asked with a slight chuckle, thinking everyone was joking. Britta thought about it for a moment before saying, "You know what? Yes." "Yes what?" Jeff asked, confused. "Yes, I'll go on a date with you," Britta said, and everyone clamored. Jeff was a bit excited and asked, "You will?" Britta avoided Jeff's hopeful gaze and said, "Well, if I'm going to lose my mind anyway, then why not? This may be the last decision I make, and I wanted someone to remember it other than me." Jeff was excited, but he still felt the need to tease. "Again, you're not going to lose your memory, you're going to go crazy, for me." "Ugh." Britta rolled her eyes and said, "I already feel like I'm going to regret this." Pierce chimed in, "Look on the bright side, even if you do regret it, it won't be for long." Britta looked at Pierce with disbelief while Jeff chuckled devilishly, finally getting what he wanted. As everyone was excited about the date, Annie asked, "Where are you going to take her?" Shirley chimed in, "I know a church if you decide to get married before Britta loses her mind. She's going to need the support of a husband when that happens." Abed was in deep thought before he muttered something, turning the group silent. "This ain't right." Everyone looked at him in puzzlement. Shirley widened her eyes and asked sweetly, "Why is it not?" Abed turned to Britta and Jeff before saying, "When Ross and Rachel get together, it feels earned, before the off again, on again situation. It was frustrating sometimes, but the build-up made it awesome. Abed, sometimes, in life." Before Annie could finish, Abed stopped her and explained himself. "I'm not dismissing that there is something there between them. I'm just saying it's not time. So what's going to happen is that there will be an external element to stop it from happening. Like Ross when he came back from China with a girlfriend." "Where is Jeff going to find a Chinese girlfriend?" Pierce asked. Everyone looked at him weirdly for a second before turning to Abed. Jeff said, "Abed, you cannot stop it, and there's not going to be an external force." Before Jeff could finish, Britta's phone rang. Jeff's smile dropped instantly as he turned to Britta. Britta widened her eyes as she looked at Jeff before she turned to Abed. Abed pointed to the phone and said, "See. It's not time yet." Britta stood up from the couch to answer the call. After a short conversation, she turned to the study group again. Pierce asked impatiently, "Is that the Chinese girlfriend?" "That's Frankie. She told me to fly to LA today," Britta said before her knees faltered as she felt relieved, and she flopped down on the previous seat next to Jeff. "Do they have the cure?" Shirley asked gratefully, "Oh Lord. You answered my prayers. Thank you." She started praying. Jeff's expression froze as he watched Britta's excited face. Britta was on the verge of tears as she replied to Shirley, "I'm not sure. But they asked me to come there, so I guess they found one." "I knew it." Abed celebrated with a fist pump when he suddenly got a notification on his phone. He didn't tell anyone about the content, but he asked Britta, "How will you get there?" "I'm just going to find an economy plane ticket," Britta replied with a slightly pained expression. "I don't really have a lot of savings right now." Abed nodded and said, "We can meet on the plane, and I'll send you some wet towels from first class." Everyone turned to Abed with confusion. Jeff finally snapped out of his state and asked, "What are you talking about, Abed?" Abed explained, "Edward invited me to come too. He even sent me the plane tickets." "Really?" Britta was flabbergasted. but I need to pay on my own? I guess it's because you need to be there. I'm invited, Abed replied casually as he opened the ticket link Edward sent him. Britta was still in disbelief. I mean, if he's going to invite Abed, then why not me too? I'm the one who needs a cure. Troy suddenly had a thought. I guess it's understandable. Everyone turned to him, making him startled for a second before he explained, I mean, I don't think the cure is cheap. Abed pointed to Troy in agreement before he said, he told me he sent the research work to a prestigious neuroscientist. He had to donate a new device to her lab to get her to accept it. Britta finally accepted it. Oh, that's quite understandable. He has already spent too much. Jeff said, I don't think you have to worry about his finances. But you do need to worry if he sends you the bills. It could be in the millions range. Abed suddenly spoke, interrupting Jeff's words. Oh, he sent me 2 plane tickets. So, who wants to come with me? Everyone turned towards Abed in disbelief and spoke at the same time. The extra ticket is obviously for Britta. Let's eat. Pierce shouted, feeling hungry. As everyone sat at the dinner table, Annie whispered to Abed, did he say anything about me? He did, Abed replied casually as he ate some food. Annie waited, but Abed didn't explain, so she asked again, what did he say? Edward POV. I returned home around 9. Dad, Frankie, and Maggie were at the house. I was nagged by Frankie for going no contact, however, I didn't dislike it. Not that I was a masochist, but it was nice to feel cared for. While we were eating, the doorbell rang. I'll get it. Frankie, don't stop nagging him, Maggie said as she volunteered to check the door. I stopped her by grabbing her arm when she was wiping her mouth with a napkin and barely standing up. I already know who it is, I said. Robin told me. It's Chloe. The detective? Is she already out of the hospital? My dad asked, disbelief evident in his voice. Frankie suddenly stood up and said, I'm going to have a word with her too. I quickly grabbed Frankie's arm to stop her. Calm down. It's official business. I stood up and walked slowly to the front door after grabbing a box of files from my desk. As I opened the door, I handed the files to Chloe. 10 more cases as part of my deal. It's all new, so you're going to have to open new investigations for them. Before that, Chloe stopped me, I'm sorry. She apologized with a sincere expression. I was a bit taken aback. What? I'm sorry for not taking your advice and going alone. I almost lost my life, and worse, I placed you in danger too. Not to mention the things that happened at the hospital. You have every right to be mad at me. Chloe continued apologizing. It's fine. I accept the apology. I said dismissively. It's not like we're going to see each other again, so you don't have to worry about it. Feeling helpless, Chloe finally grabbed the box I handed to her. What's these cases? Oh, I don't want to deal with violent cases, felonies, misdemeanors anymore, so I decided to investigate the things I'm best at. Numbers. Here are 10 cases of frauds, embezzling, and other financial crimes. I already reached out to my contacts in the FBI, and they are going to work on this case with you. You definitely can't do this on your own. It'll do great for your career as I know you won't stop being a cop. The FBI are salivating on this evidence. Don't do the stupid thing and just give it to them. Chloe was flabbergasted, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I did this for Trixie. I said with an irritated expression. She deserves to grow up with her mother. And as far as I can see it, you are a great mother to her. Remember this whenever you decide to do the stupid thing again. Are you giving this all to me to make sure we never meet again? Chloe asked, a little depressed. I scratched the back of my head and said, not like this. If you invite me for a birthday party, I'll try to stop by, but I have had enough of investigating already. Chloe showed a painful smile and said, I see, I guess, I'll see you around. Goodbye, Chloe. Goodbye, Edward. She gave me a light hug after putting down the case files and then left the house. I sighed in relief after everything was over. As I got back into my room, I noticed a case file on my desk. It was the Tea Time Strangler's case file. I forgot to give this back. I'll do it when she asks for it. I mumbled dismissively before putting it back in its place. Chapter 300, Company Benefit. Edward POV. It's already 9 a.m., Robin chimed in as I sat on the couch cross-legged, my eyes fixed on the front door. Everyone's late, she said with a cute pout. I smiled and replied, well, they are busy people. I didn't expect them to be here on time. I stood up, walked by the coffee table, which had several goodie bags on it, and headed to the pool. Dad was grilling some burgers and hot dogs by the pool while Frankie helped him with the drinks. I cringed slightly and told them, they will not be staying. What's even the point of all this? Manners, my dad said assertively, pointing his spatula at me. Ed, is this done yet? He asked. I usually can tell, but your burgers are a bit different, he added. When we woke up this morning and he knew about the plan, he wanted to make a good impression on the guests I told him were coming, so he bought all the ingredients at the grocery store. I helped him create the patties and make other appetizers against my will. Now he was excited to have a barbecue. Still, it had been a while since he grilled something. I was afraid it would go badly, but it turned out he wasn't rusty. I checked the grill and told him, yeah, it's done. You can take it off now. Should we invite your friends to come? What about your guests? He asked. I rolled my eyes and told him, they aren't staying. They are all busy people. While I was saying that, the first person to get to the party appeared in a unique way. She was sleeping inside the house after all. With disheveled, frilly, puffy hair, Maggie walked groggily to the poolside. I smell burgers, she mumbled. Get your hand off it. I swatted her hand with annoyance as she reached for the burger I was holding. Ow! Uncle Ted! She tried to get me in trouble, but my dad smiled and said, you're the one who tried to touch his food. Ed only shares food with the people he likes. Maggie looked at my dad with disbelief. Frankie and I snickered as Maggie stammered, not you too, UNC. Maggie, go wash up. Otherwise, you'll be embarrassed, Frankie advised her, but she was being stubborn and said, no. It's my house. My house, I corrected her. She was speechless for a second before she said, well, I live here now. And if the guests have something against that, then they can leave. As soon as she finished saying that, the first guest arrived. I had already given Robin the guest list, so she just invited them inside the house. Hello, good morning. Ryan Gosling appeared in his casual sportswear. Maggie widened her eyes and immediately hid her face as Ryan came to the pool. I hope I'm not late, he said cheerfully. I shook my hand slightly and said, you're the first one here. Grab a bite if you want. Ignore the girl with the lion's mane behind you. Who? Ryan immediately turned to the lounge chairs, but Maggie had run away. He only saw a silhouette of her as she got back into the house. Albeit confused, Ryan didn't pursue the topic and said, I have to be at the set this afternoon, so I'm only going to be able to stay a while. I smirked as I turned to my dad. See? I told you. He rolled his eyes and said, then he can take the food home. You have a lot of disposable containers. I can just pack it for him. Oh no, I still have some time to eat, Ryan interjected quickly. Ed, you're coming to the set too today, right? He asked me whisperingly. My dad brightened up, and his face became a bit smug. I grimaced as I told Ryan, yup. Let's grab your company's benefit first. We need to get out of here before he starts bragging. My dad snide, I told you people would eat. I ignored him and went inside with Ryan. Then, I gave him a goodie bag and an explanation. He left after eating the burger and even taking one home with him, but not before he saw the 100-inch TV on my living room wall. What's that? He asked, his eyes glued on the screen. I thought it was a painting at first, but it changed. It's a TV. I told him with a bragging smirk. I had it installed yesterday. I turned it on and played a basketball game. Ryan was thoroughly impressed as it felt like we were watching from the courtside itself. Where can I find one? He asked immediately. I told him that it was not yet released, but I could get him one as a favor. At 9:45, two more guests arrived, Margot Robbie and Emily Blunt. Both had hair appointments that morning and left excited after receiving the company benefit. They didn't eat or bring any food back with them, as they were dieting, which saddened the cook. After they were gone, my dad, noticing the women's excitement, asked, "What are you giving them exactly?" I smirked and replied, "Nothing for you, though, so don't even bother." Frankie, standing by my father's side, asked, "Ed, you said only certain people would get the benefit, right? I assume everyone will be celebrities. Does that include, I don't know, your ex-girlfriend?" I did. "I don't know if she'll come, though," I muttered casually. Then, I took my shirt off and lay down on the lounge chair. My dad looked at me in disbelief and scolded, "Put your shirt back on. Do you really expect me to think you're just trying to tan?" "I kinda am," I replied nonchalantly as I put on my sunglasses. I then slathered sunblock and tanning oil on my torso, making it glisten in the sun. Guests came and went as I enjoyed the morning with my dad and Frankie. Donald Glover, Judd Apatow, Jessie J, Chris Martin, Pepper, Harvey, and Ronaldo also stopped by to grab some food. My dad made sure they brought food back with them, but he continued grilling, adding more to the already prepared burgers. "Make sure to bring it all to the ship's crew," I told him as I noticed the excess food on the table. There were around 21 burgers, as he wanted to finish the patties. He smiled softly and said, "I kinda already thought of that. That's why I'm making more." I nodded in understanding and playfully said, "Just keep 5 for me, and there won't be any problems." It was almost noon when Taylor finally arrived. She brought Selena with her as she entered the house. Wearing a sexy one-piece dress and sporting a dolled-up appearance with red lipstick and blown-out hair, she sashayed into the living room. Having spent the entire morning getting ready to make me go crazy, she froze in place when she saw me shirtless, tanned, and glistening, her eyes going wide. I brightened up as I turned to her and said, "Oh Tay-Tay. You're really late." Taylor snapped back to reality at the sound of my voice and said haughtily, "I've been busy." "It's fine." I stood up from the chair and greeted Selena, "Hey, Selena." As I walked closer to Taylor, her eyes lit up in anticipation. I stopped in front of her and removed my sunglasses, checking her out. "You look great," I complimented, which was exactly what she was expecting. Taylor felt a bit smug and snickered to herself. "Thanks. You too." We exchanged smiles and slight laughter for a moment, and I noticed her cheeks flush red. I'm still here," Selena chimed in, trying to assert her presence. I turned to her and said, Selena, I didn't think you'd come, to be honest, so I didn't prepare anything for you." "Well, you're not a part of the company though, I don't really have to." "Prepare what?" Selena asked in confusion and intrigue. Taylor was a bit confused. "It's not a massage?" I grimaced instantly and said playfully, "There's no way I'm going to massage every single one of them. The girls are still within consideration, though." "Hork cough, sorry, there's something in my throat," Taylor said, feigning a cough. I ignored her and walked towards the goodie bag. "The company benefit you're talking about is inside the $10 gift bag from Target?" Selena asked mockingly, disbelief etched on her face. "Don't be ridiculous." "It's only $1, I corrected her. "But inside it, it's worth millions." "Millions?" Selena's eyes lit up before she suddenly recoiled. "Wait, this isn't one of those placenta things, is it?" "EW. No." I grabbed a bag from the table and showed it to the girls. "First of all, these are face masks." I pulled out 3 masks and added, "They work wonders on sun damage and will give you soft, elastic skin." "I don't want to explain much, you'll see when you try them." Taylor looked disappointed with the reveal. She even placed her hands on her hips as she peeked inside the bag. "Anything else?" Selena grabbed the mask excitedly and immediately read the instruction label on it. I think you are underestimating this mask, but whatever. I shrugged and took out some supplementary pills, body lotion, and bath bombs. The pills consist of simple detoxification, hormone regulation, muscle and bone supplement. In one of my gacha pulls, I got 10 pill recipes from the nameless alchemist, and I managed to break down 7 of them: the detoxification pill, hormone regulation pill, bone strengthening pill, muscle strengthening pill, flawless skin pill, and internal organ pill. From the detoxification pills, I created an anti-dependency drug for Vanessa. Using the hormone regulation pill, I developed a lupus treatment for Selena. The masks, lotions, and bath bombs included in the goodie bag were derived from the flawless skin formula. While I couldn't replicate the original formula's 100%, most of the ingredients were otherworldly. I successfully recreated the chemical compounds of several. My versions only had about 5% of the effects the original pills were supposed to deliver, but that small percentage worked wonders. For example, the face mask had remarkable results. People over 40 who used it appeared a decade younger, with visibly shrunk pores and significant repair to sun damage. My test subjects, Frankie and Alexandria, Igena's mom, experienced dramatic transformations after using these products. Small scars from zits, freckles, and other skin imperfections all disappeared after their third use. The bone and muscle strengthening pills proved equally effective for the sailors on the ship. Their chronic back pain and arthritis significantly improved, allowing them to work harder. I swear I wasn't aiming for that, but it was still a good thing. Ryan took the muscle and bone pills on the spot, eager for relief from his prolonged back pain from weightlifting. I wasn't sure why he trusted me so much, considering I was offering him drugs of ambiguous origin, but it all worked out nicely. The muscle pills also aided ligament repair, helping the older guys regain the spring in their steps. I could have explained the benefits to Selena and Taylor like I did for the others, but I didn't want to. Anyways, there are instructions in there. You can read them when you get back, I said curtly as I handed the bag to Taylor. Her brows furrowed, and she sniped, "What's with the attitude? You didn't even want me here." "First of all, you guys are late," I replied sassily. "I have to get to the film set in half an hour. Secondly, you're dressed way too cute for me to think straight. So I'll have to kick you out of here, capiche?" Taylor was flattered, and her dissatisfaction melted away. Selena gazed at the goodie bags and pointed, "There are still 3 more. Can't I take one?" "It's for Vanessa, Maggie, and Miss D'Addario. They're for people working for me, even temporarily," I teased. Selena raised her hand and said, "I can be an extra in your movie if you give me one." Taylor looked at her, bewildered. "What are you doing?" Selena ignored Taylor and hugged my arm. "I want one." Taylor, alarmed, quickly pried Selena away from me. Just then, Miss D'Addario entered the house with an unexpected visitor, Gloria. "Hola, hola." Gloria announced herself loudly as she walked toward me. "I'm here." I widened my eyes slightly at her arrival. "Gloria, what are you doing here?" D'Addario was completely overshadowed by Gloria, her eyes darting around nervously as she approached me. "For lunch with Frankie," Gloria said cheerily. What are you guys doing?" she teased, noticing the awkward position Taylor, Selena, and I were in. Gloria was intrigued by the beauty products, having overheard my explanation to Miss D'Addario. Taylor's dissatisfaction grew as she realized I had explained everything to D'Addario but not to her. She has the courtesy to inform me she's going to be late. Unlike a certain someone, I was about to tease Taylor when Robin suddenly sounded the alarm. "What?" I turned to the TV immediately, as it was Robin's procedure to show everything there instead of using holograms when people were inside the house. It was footage from the front of the house. Agent Walker and Agent Casey stood at the door, blood splattered across their clothes. Sarah had a deep cut on her forehead, causing blood to flow down the left side of her face. Casey grimaced, revealing a severe wound on his leg where he had been shot by a shotgun. "Oh shit." I cursed before I ran to the front door to help them. Frankie saw it and immediately shouted, "Ed! What's going on? Who are these guys? I helped carry Casey inside the house and laid him down on the couch. The blood from his leg stained the floor, which made it look like a scene from a horror movie. He lost a lot of blood. I told Sarah. Why are you guys here? Sarah panted heavily and replied, we were hunted down by a team of black ops when we were transporting the black box to you. Casey got shot trying to protect me. Where's the box? Give him the box. Casey grumbled. Mission was the only thing in his mind even though he was on the brink of death. I cut off his pants and checked the wound. You have a partially ruptured artery. You'll die if you don't get surgery. Sarah immediately turned to Casey. We need to get you to the hospital now. No. Casey grunted as he stopped Sarah. Newgate, you need to decrypt the password on that file immediately. The fate of the entire country rests on your hand. What do you mean? What's happening? I asked with a slight urgency. Robin suddenly turned on the news. The reporter on the TV stood in front of the White House as she reported, what we're witnessing today is nothing short of a national crisis. Just moments ago, armed assailants breached the security perimeter of the White House, taking control of the premises and holding hostages inside. The screen cuts to aerial footage of the White House, smoke rising and sirens wailing in the background. The camera shakes as it captures frantic scenes of security personnel rushing to the scene. The situation escalated rapidly. Reports indicate that several gunmen entered through the front gates, overpowering Secret Service agents in the process. Eyewitnesses describe a scene of chaos: the gunfire, explosions, and panic as staff and visitors attempted to flee. The footage shifts to terrified civilians running from the building, some stumbling as they escape. Sources confirm that the president and key officials are currently inside the White House, and their safety is our top concern. Security teams are working tirelessly to regain control, but reports suggest that the assailants have taken strategic positions throughout the building. Shit, it's White House down, I mumbled as I understood the situation. Casey suddenly shrieked, Newgate. Ignore me and decrypt the password now. In your hand is the only thing that can save the President of the United States. Shut up. I got it, I interjected, cutting him off before he could finish. But you're going to die if this continues. Sarah, go to the basement and create a clean room. I have everything down there. Frankie, can you help Sarah? You'll need to prepare for surgery. Robin will guide you on what to do. I turned to the others, who wore terrified expressions. I'm sorry for this, girls, but can anyone help me clean up the blood on the floor? I'm pretty sure someone will pay us a visit, and I don't want to be caught with my pants down. I'll clean it up, my dad said, emerging from another room in his captain's uniform. He loosened his tie and added, Ed, you're going to explain to me what exactly is going on after we get through this. All right, I replied, turning back to the girls. Gloria, we need a distraction. Me, okay. Gloria agreed eagerly. What do you want me to do? Wear an itsy-bitsy bikini and go sunbathe. Daddario, can you do it too? What? Both Daddario and Gloria looked bewildered. Selena and Taylor exchanged glances, caught off guard by the request. Selena offered her help in exchange for one of the goodie bags, while Taylor remained silent, her expression a mixture of confusion and disbelief. Just then, Vader ran toward me, purring and rubbing against my leg, trying to offer some comfort. I reached into my pocket and swallowed 2 more anti-anxiety pills, feeling a surge of determination ignite within me. Robin, they're going to track the agents. I need you to do this. General POV. Do you have any clues on the whereabouts of the agents? A stern-looking agent barked as he stepped out of a black SUV. No, sir. We lost track of them, his subordinate replied gruffly. We're scouring the area and checking potential locations, but it'll take some time. What about Newgate? The agent pressed. They're definitely going to reach out to him for help. Not many people in the world can solve the Rubicon. Just then, a black helicopter flew overhead, circling Edward's house. Agents inside used binoculars to scrutinize the scene below, but one agent's gaze was immediately drawn to a woman suntanning by the pool. "Anything to report?" another agent asked as he activated an infrared scanner, scanning the house for heat signatures. "Nothing, except I've interfered with the goddess's fun time." The faint outlines of bodies appeared on the screen, revealing movement inside the residence. "We've got heat sources," the infrared agent said, eyes narrowing. "Looks like there are at least 3 people in there, but the layout is unclear." Those 3 heat signatures were only from Maggie, Selena, and Taylor, who were sitting in the living room. The scans couldn't penetrate deep enough to get to the basement. "Keep a close watch on those signatures," the lead agent ordered, his expression hardening. "We need to make sure those agents don't come here. Otherwise, we might have to kill everyone inside." That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.